years, I know always back things up. So we've got it on a thumb drive, so we're good to go now. Okay. How was that? Can we all hear me? Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sara Randall. If I look familiar to any of you, I have been a member of this chapter since 2011. And I've sat in this audience over the past 10 years, watching a lot of presentations, and I would think to myself, you know, if you were only more interesting, one day we would get invited to come present at an ADK GVC meeting. Well, something even better than that happened. I had a child who was interesting enough to be invited to come speak. So I'm very proud to introduce my daughter, Sara Randall, who will be speaking to you in just a couple minutes. But you might be wondering, what is so interesting about Sara? Well, for months at a time, she lives in her car, and she drives around the country, sometimes alone, sometimes with others. She has driven across the United States solo 3 times this year, and she's leaving tomorrow to drive to Florida and then back across to California. So that'll be 4 cross-country trips in 2021. She's been to 45 of the 50 states. She's been to several foreign countries. And she has 1.5 million followers on the social media platform TikTok. Show of hands if you know what TikTok is. It's more than I expected. And she has 30,000 plus followers on Instagram, where she gets to share her photography.
Raise your hand. You know what Instagram is?
Instagram, yes. So, take it back a little. Sara was born 6 weeks early, at 4 pounds 11 ounces, and didn't realize it at the time, but that was probably foreshadowing that she was not going to be contained in one spot for very long. Before she could walk, we would put her to bed in her crib, come downstairs to watch TV, and she would climb over the rail, crawl downstairs, and show up in the living room, and we would repeat this over and over until she finally fell asleep. We got smart and we put a gate on her bedroom door, and she stacked pillows in front of it and climbed over the gate, and we would repeat this process. So we finally got to the point where I had to sit in her bedroom with my back up against the door, and it would take about 30 minutes for her to stop climbing over the crib, crawling towards me, and getting put back in her crib. She was not going to be contained to one spot. So in 2012, I took my children, I took Sara and her brother Nicholas to the Adirondacks to climb some high peaks. Do you recognize which peak this was from? High Peak. Yeah. This is on Cascade, everybody's starter peak. So we did Cascade and Porter that year. We went back the following year and got one more peak. Does anybody recognize this view?
Big Slide.
This is from Big Slide, yeah, good. This is from Big Slide with a great range in the distance. So thinking that I found a new family activity, I signed us up for the 2014 Finger Lakes Trail County Hike Series, only to discover that Sara did not have an interest in hiking, and she did not join us for the County Hike Series after the first hike, but she was, at the time, a 14-year-old girl who did not want to hike with her brother and her father, and that was fine. She was developing her own interests, she was discovering social media, she was discovering video production, and she had her first success on social media at the age of 14, where she had a Vine. Does anybody remember Vine? 6-second videos. She had a Vine that got over 100,000 likes, and it earned her a cookie cake. So that was all the motivation she needed. I think at that time she realized social media was somehow going to play a large role in her life. So as her brother and I continued to climb high peaks, we became 46ers in 2017, and Sara was not part of that, but she was off discovering her own passions, her own interests, and making a plan for how to get out of Hilton, New York. So in August of 2018, we packed her car, and she and I drove to San Diego, and she moved in with my sister, and she began exploring Southern California, and would begin to branch out further and explore the Southwest. And this is where her passion for travel and adventure and not staying in one place very long really took off. So what I had to realize was at some point you have to hope you did a good job, and you have to let them go, and it's best to just get out of their way sometimes. So with that, I'm going to get out of her way, and I'm going to let Sara tell you about the last couple of years of her life.
Thank you for the introduction, Dad. All right, so as he said, my name is Sara. I'm 22 years old, born and raised here in Rochester. In 2017, I graduated from Hilton High School. Growing up in Hilton, my dad encouraged my brother and I to go outside and explore. He would take us hiking, fishing, camping, up to the Adirondacks as well. And we had a little camp downstate, we had a little cabin he would take me to. I was lucky to grow up in a family that traveled quite a bit. He would take us on road trips, and even though I may have gave him trouble for hiking at the time, I am grateful that he pushed me to do that now, because it is a huge part of my life. When I was young, my family took me to Hawaii, as well as California. And I quickly fell in love with those places, and comparing them to Hilton, New York, where I grew up, I made it my life's mission to move to those places. Going into high school, I had little interest in learning. Actually, I had no interest in learning. I had no interest in getting along with my classmates. I basically spent my free time trying to leave Hilton, New York. I spent my time daydreaming about other places that I could go. And I remember one English class, they handed us a piece of paper, and on that paper, we were supposed to write down 3 colleges that we had applied to, 3 colleges that we wanted to apply to, and 3 subjects that we wanted to study. And my classmates filled theirs out, handed it back in, and when it got time for me to turn mine in, it was blank. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, none. But I did know that I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars just to go into debt for years and pick a subject that when I was 16 and 17, I had no passion about and would grow up and ultimately feel like I wasted my life. So I took a year off and I decided to just start working at Wegmans part-time. I worked in the sub and pizza shop. And one morning before work, it was a freezing cold December, I'm sitting in my car before going into my shift. I was very unhappy, and I thought to myself, and I thought, what do I want to do? What am I interested in? And honestly, I didn't really know, but one thing stuck out, and it was that I want to move to California. So I texted my aunt, who lives in San Diego. Right then and there, right before my shift, I asked her if I could come live with her. And right away, she said yes. So I walked into my shift, and for 6 months, I worked to make money, and I traveled across the country in my car with my dad. He actually did most of the driving. Actually, all of the driving. Yeah, all of it. So once we got to San Diego, I was kind of sad, because we had a really, really, really fun trip, and I loved the feeling of waking up in a new, unfamiliar place. Like watching the sun rise and then set in places I had never been before I couldn't explain it. I was like, this is pretty cool. So we got to San Diego, and he had to fly back to Rochester, left me in San Diego. And I fell in love with San Diego. I absolutely loved living there. But I quickly realized that California is not cheap. And if I wanted to stay there, that I would need to somehow make enough money to continue living there. And in my mind, the only way to stay there was to have a high-paying job and the only way to have a high-paying job was to go to college, which I did not do because my only experience and skills was customer service and food service. But I got a job at a Hilton hotel, began working front desk in San Diego, and I loved my job. I got to meet people from all over the world. I was still kind of involved in like the travel, hospitality, tourism industry. But on my weekends, I found myself branching out farther and farther. I would go to the national parks in Southern California, the cities in Southern California, and then I started going even farther and farther and farther until I was pushing 14-hour road trips on my 2-day weekends with little to no sleep. And one of the places that I got to visit was Yosemite National Park. I don't know if anyone here has ever, by the show of hands, who's been to Yosemite? So, you know how amazing that place is. So, my friend and I, that I grabbed from work, we drove up Highway 41, and we came out the end of the tunnel, and it spit us out a tunnel view. And right there, I saw El Capitan, Bridalveil Falls, Half Dome right down the middle, the valley going straight down, and I thought, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. And I said, I want to live here. So when I was in the valley, I asked the employees, I said, so do you guys all live here? And they said, yeah, we all live in canvas tents. All the employees wake up every day and commute, like they can walk to work, bike to work. And I said, okay. Went back to San Diego, and I began applying to national parks around the United States. I had no idea that this was a thing. I did not know that you could live in national parks. I wish that I would have known earlier, but that brings us to when I lived in Yosemite. Just gonna switch here so I can face the screen. All right, so here I am. I worked at the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite National Park. I was there for about, I would say about 7 months. And I lived here in tent number 50 that I shared with 2 other girls. Very small. There was my corner that they gave me. But the cool thing about living in national parks is that they're often so remote that there's not enough locals to fill up the positions that are willing to commute to these parks every single day. So they provide housing to their employees for sometimes free or sometimes a small amount of money out of your paycheck. Can anybody guess how much my rent costs? Right in Yosemite Valley, but for this tent. Any guesses? Monthly rent. Anyone? Spit a number out there. 50? It was $80 per month. So I was living in what I thought was heaven for $80 per month. I thought, I'm never leaving here. I'm going to save so much money. So here was my little tent. I then got upgraded to a dorm room. There it is, right there. Still, $80 a month. And same thing, I was working the hotel job there, and on my weekends, I would just start pushing my little car as far as it could go, and just kept driving and driving and driving and driving, and would explore all these beautiful places. On my weekends, I went to Lake Tahoe, San Francisco, and just, is it moving or is it just me? Is it moving? Okay. That was not planned. So yeah, while I was based in Yosemite, just kind of started exploring Northern California even more. Let's see what's next. As well as my beautiful home, as you can see here. It's not too bad. It's kind of amazing. Let's see what's next here. I also started. Whoop! You guys weren't supposed to see that. Okay, there we go. But while I was working in Yosemite, I thought to myself, I still have this desire to go to even more places. I said, why? I'm living in this beautiful place, amazing rent, amazing deal. I love my job, but why do I feel the need to keep going? I felt like every time I would go somewhere new, it just filled me with joy, filled me with happiness. I thought, I want to see the whole world. Why can't I be content? Everybody wakes up, goes to work, goes to their 9 to 5, comes home to their house. Why can't I have the same thing? And I felt like there was something wrong with me. I said, I have no desire to settle down. And I didn't know anybody at the time that also felt this way, so I thought I was crazy. But we'll come back to that in a bit. While I was in Yosemite, I started taking my photography a little bit more seriously. My dad had got me a camera for my 18th birthday. And so I started using it. It had been getting dust for like over a year. And so I started taking some pictures. And so, let's see. Also, while I was in Yosemite, I met some like-minded people that were like me that would do the seasonal work thing. You could basically go somewhere, work there for however many months you wanted to, and then the turnover is so high that they don't expect you to stay there for long term. So they expect that people are going to come, save a bunch of money for a summer, and then go off and do their own thing. So I said, I can really utilize this system because I don't want to stay in one place. They know that I'm not going to stay here for long term. So a friend of mine that I had made in the park told me about something called woofing. Does anybody know what woofing is? W-W-O-O-F? No? Okay. One in the back? Okay. So it stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. Basically, it's a website you can go on, and it's like hundreds and hundreds of farms that need help and labor on their farm. And so in exchange, you'd go there and work for them, and they would give you a place to stay. So I thought, I want to go to Hawaii. So I got, hired or made an arrangement with a host in Hawaii. And let's see here. So this is me at the airport in Hawaii, and this was my tent. I lived in a one-person tent in this bamboo forest. There it is there. And this was my shower. It was just a little spigot surrounded by some leaves, an umbrella, and bamboo. And I worked on this beautiful farm on Maui, Hawaii. And again, in my free time, would spend my time traveling around, exploring the beautiful parts of Hawaii. Here I am. Let's see. So yeah, here's some more pictures of our farm. And so up here at the top, that was our farm host. Her name was Tulsi. Basically, we would just go out with her and help her weed on the farm, and as well as like scrubbing sugar cane. I don't know, this is kind of a bad picture, but over here you can see, what are they called? Centipedes? Yeah, centipedes. They're like a foot long. I don't know if anyone's ever seen those in person. And you have to go, I was so scared. We were basically working in the sugarcane fields. And I was like, Hawaii is beautiful, but I don't want to be here for too long because I'm going to get stung by one of those. But over here in the corner, this was our bus. So our bus had a sink and bins for all of our food. So basically I just exchanged my time and labor on the farm for about a month so that I could explore beautiful Maui. And then COVID hit. And I thought, what am I going to do next? So I got a job, a seasonal job, up working in Denali National Park in Alaska. Show of hands, who's been to Alaska? Great. I like you guys. You guys have been a lot of places, and I appreciate it. Let's see. All right. So I went back to New York, and we all shut down for COVID. And my plan was to take a cross-country train from Rochester, New York, all the way to Seattle. And from Seattle, I was gonna fly up to Alaska. Sometimes things don't go as planned, and this is something that I have learned over my travels. Nothing is ever perfect, and I think a lot of people think, oh, a life of full-time travel is just so glamorous, and you never run into any problems. About halfway through my train journey, I got food poisoning. And you don't want to have food poisoning on a train. That's the last place you want food poisoning. So I'm on this train, severely ill, and having no sleep for it's a 3-day train. Had no sleep for over 24 hours. I'm so sick. And I finally get just a little bit of sleep, just nod my head off, and I wake up. And right after I wake up, the whole train goes forward, and I hear boom, and then everything comes to a stop. And then everybody's looking up, standing around, wondering what to do. We look on both sides of the train. It had come to a full stop. There was fire on both sides of the train. And first thing I do, I didn't even hesitate, gotta call mom. So I call my mom, and in my panic, I just go, we just hit something. And she's like freaking out, call my dad, say the same thing, have no idea what's going on. But long story short, our train collided with a tractor in the middle of Montana. We were remaining here at site for about an hour. None of us knew what was happening. And then they shuttled us to a nearby town called Culbertson, Montana, population 700, where I then told them this is the perfect opportunity to tell them, I've got food poisoning, I'm severely ill, do not put me back on that train. So I was in basically the middle of nowhere in Montana, all by myself, post-train crash, and very, very sick. And it is one of the most traumatic things I've ever experienced while traveling. But so eventually I got better and I moved on. And I moved to McKinley Creekside Cabins in McKinley Park, Alaska. And I worked as a barista and server at this little cafe here. This was my housing. I believe it was about $350 per month. You get your own room and you share a bathroom with somebody, as well as some meals were included in the package. So this is where I lived. Like I said, I was a server and barista, and the tourism in Alaska in the summer is incredible, even during COVID. So I was able to save so much money for my next adventure, which I had no idea what I wanted to do. This was post COVID hitting, post train crash, and I was feeling pretty down. But so I decided that also, side note, has anyone ever taken a helicopter and landed on a glacier in the middle of the Alaskan tundra? We got one. Isn't it incredible?
I worked up there for years and did stuff like that. Yes, it's awesome.
It's amazing. One of the most I forgot I put this in here, sorry, I need to talk about this. This was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. And it made me even realize how amazing these seasonal jobs are, because you get to go, save a bunch of money on rent, you get to live in the most beautiful places on earth, and you get to experience it like a tourist. And so I got to do all these amazing things for free. Got to do the helicopter landing, as well as go to the end of the mile 92 in Denali National Park. So let's see. So yeah, like I was saying, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was feeling pretty burnt out from the traumatic events of last year, as we all know. So I decided that I wanted to move to San Francisco, and I used my saved money from Alaska to be able to buy my 2006 Ford Escape. And I don't know if anyone's ever lived in the Bay Area, but it's ridiculously overpriced. I paid $675 a month to share a 12 by 12 room with 2 girls. So this was my corner. I got to have a bed in front of this closet here for $675 a month. And quickly realized that this was not what I wanted to do long term, and I got to enjoy San Francisco while I was there, and it was nice to be able to experience it like a local. But I'd forgotten that my passion was to keep moving, and so I turned my little Ford Escape here into a home, and I began a journey across the country. So this is my 2006 Ford Escape. I had pushed down the seats. And over here, this was my bed with, I can't build. I see all these amazing builds online of people building out their cars. I can't do that. So I bought this cute shelf from Walmart, $70. Threw it in there, called it a day. So yeah, this was my little build here. All right, and then began driving across the country. Drove from San Francisco to San Diego, from San Diego to Las Vegas to the parks of Utah. Up here we've got Zion National Park. Hold on one second, I'm gonna take a drink of water. All right, so yeah, up here we got Angel's Landing in Zion. We've got Bryce Canyon National Park down here at the bottom. And then moving over, we have Valley of Fire State Park. There's Zion once again. Valley of Fire again. Up here is the Great Smoky Mountains, that picture of me. And I drove all the way to the Outer Banks, which is that top right-hand corner. So I basically drove from ocean to ocean, and I was supposed to do it with a friend of mine, but like I said, life throws you curveballs. Sometimes there's unexpected challenges, and about in Las Vegas, we ended up parting ways, and I drove across the country by myself, and I was terrified. Let's see what's next here. Oh, yep, there's some more cross country. I'm gonna take a brief pause and I'm sure people have questions, maybe not, but hopefully. If anyone has burning questions they can't possibly hold on to, feel free to raise your hand and ask me, or ask me after.
How did you take all these selfie shots when you're like 50 feet off?
Yeah, so the beginning of this trip, I was with some friends. So my friends took the ones on the bottom, and then that one at the top, and then I took those. But I'll try to, I have so many pictures here, I'll try to explain, but a lot of the times it's just me balancing my phone on trees, tripods, rocks. You find all kinds of cool ways to try to keep a phone up, so. Okay. Oh, yep.
So how did you work through your fear of traveling alone?
You know, they say the best way to get over your fear. Oh yeah, sorry, she asked, how did you get over your fear? They say the best way to get over fear is just immersing yourself right into what scares you. And basically, I won't get into too much detail, but I had to just get over it. That there was one day when I was like, I have to do this, and it's either going to be the best thing I've ever done, or it's going to fail miserably. And it was amazing, and I felt so accomplished afterwards. But I think my situation was a little bit special. Like I kind of had to go like, all right, driving across the country by myself now. Didn't expect this, but you know, when I'm telling people online, like I have a lot of young women follow me, and they say like, so like I really want to do this, but I'm too scared to do it alone. And I always say like, start small. You don't have to jump right into driving across the country. Like it started with me just taking little trips around San Diego, and then pushing myself farther and farther and farther. So I would just say that it comes with time. So, yes.
So in this traveling here, are you doing your social media already, or when did that start?
Great question. So that started, so basically at the end of when I was living in Yosemite, I had a friend back from Hilton. She was very, very successful on social media, and she was telling me, she's like, your life is cool, and like people want to see that. And I was like, yeah, okay. She was like, no, like you need to start posting about this. And so at the end of Yosemite, and going into Hawaii, I'd start posting about it. And it kind of took off a little bit here and there. And going onto the train and into Alaska started to really, really take off. And I was like, this is kind of cool. People know who I am. And then going into the Bay Area, it had kind of tapered off because I wasn't really doing anything abnormal. But then when I turned my car into a home, people were like, that's what I want to see. And so it started to absolutely take off. And I think when I was on this trip, I had 200,000 followers at the time. So thank you for that question. Oh, sorry, there's another one? Yep, go ahead.
Electronics. How did you charge your phone, charge your computer, charge your camera? How did you get cell service?
Good question. So the question was, how did I get cell service and how did I charge my electronics, like my phone and my camera? So the first trip here, I was just plugging it into the little outlet in my car, and also going into like cafes. For the most part, I had cell service all across the country, and I would try to avoid those places that didn't have it when I was alone, just because, you know, I do fear for my safety sometimes. So, but when it came to charging my phone and devices, I would just plug it right into my car. But then on cross-country drive number 2, I realized, I said, I have enough followers that like companies might want to sponsor me for their products. I do cool things, and I have a big audience. And so I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the company called Jackery. I basically reached out to Jackery and I said, I explained to them who I was, and they said, we'd love to send you our Jackery. So they sent me a Jackery and some solar panels. If anyone's unfamiliar, it's like a power bank type thing. It's 1,000 watts. You can plug, I plug my toaster into it and it works. So yeah, cross-country drive number 2, I started using my Jackery. Any more questions before we move on? Yes?
When you're driving your car, where will you be parking? Were you saying a campground, or where would you hide?
Yep, that's a good question. So the question was, where do I park overnight to sleep? So it depends. When I'm with other people, I will say, let's go and park in the woods. Let's go park in the desert. Let's go park somewhere cool out in the middle of nowhere. But when I'm by myself, I don't feel comfortable doing that alone. Something about the dark unknown, I don't want to know who's out there. I don't want to see them. I don't want them to see me. So I haven't gotten over that fear yet. So when I'm alone, I will put all of my window covers up so nobody can see in. And I will park in hotel parking lots. Usually I will look online and see if they offer free parking to their guests. And I roll in after dark and I park way in the corner and just fall asleep, wake up the next morning and keep driving. But national forests, you can park overnight, depending on the national forest, but most places you can. And BLM land, so Bureau of Land Management, you can park there overnight as well. Casino parking lots, they allow people to park there overnight as well. And then there's some apps and websites that I can just open up my phone and just open up the map and it'll tell me all the places that are free parking. So, all right. Yep.
Sarah, how did you shower, or what did you do to get clean once in a while?
Yeah, so the question was, how do I shower? And I will tell you, on social media, this is the #1 question I get. My dad was like, I never thought that I would be reading my daughter's comments and people would be asking her how she showered. Sometimes I want to respond and be like, all right, turn the water on, you get undressed, shampoo, but so basically, Planet Fitness is my best friend. For $22 a month, I get unlimited access to thousands of clubs across the country, and there's a lot of them, so you can pretty much find a shower anywhere. And I walk in with my little bathroom bag, straight to the shower, and fill my water up on the way out, bum their Wi-Fi in the parking lot, and go to bed. And I can also sleep in Planet Fitness parking lots that are 24 hours as well. But also truck stops have showers for, if I'm really desperate, I'll pay $12 for a truck stop shower, but I don't like to do that. So yeah, I'll take one more question if there is any, and then I'm gonna move on. Anybody? No? Okay, just one more. All right, so this was cross-country drive number 2. Basically, on social media, there is a community of what I would call generally van lifers, or people that live in their vehicles. And a lot of them have a pretty big following. And so there was this big meetup happening with everyone, or not everybody, but a big group of people that lived in their vans, buses, ambulance, and they were all going to meet out in the desert in California. And I was in Rochester at the time because I had driven that first cross-country road trip to the Outer Banks and then up to Rochester, and I was just stationary at home. And I was invited to go to this meetup. So I said, time to pack her up and let's get going again. So I drove from New York all the way to Georgia, and then from Georgia all the way to San Diego again. So here we have Saguaro National Park in Arizona, Caverns of Sonora in Texas, the national park that's in South Carolina, and then White Sands National Park. And so I finally made it to Southern California after what felt like forever of driving the cross country for the second time. And as you can see here, so here's some of the people that I met up with. We have Heather, who lives in her school bus down here. My conversion with my Jackery, if anyone's interested, is this picture up at the top here. And then my friend Danielle, who lived in her ambulance, or still lives. And then there's another school bus liver, we got a van lifer here, and so yeah, we traveled around Southern California together in a big group, and it was awesome. I kind of felt like I was just like this natural born hippie person traveling around Southern California with all these really cool people. So yeah, and then let's see. Decided to break free from the group and explore the Pacific Northwest. I had gotten a job in Mount Rainier National Park for the summer, which was supposed to start in May of 2021. So I said, all right, time to go up and explore the Pacific Northwest before I gotta go off to work again. Gotta pay the bills somehow. And so started traveling, and I ended up meeting this photographer on Instagram, and she said, I saw your Instagram post that you're really close to Crater Lake National Park. She's like, I'm also near Crater Lake National Park. Do you want to meet up? And I was taught stranger danger from a very young age, but I said, sure. So we met up in Crater Lake National Park, and we traveled around the Pacific Northwest together for 19 days, visiting all these beautiful places and taking pictures of each other. These are some of the pictures she took of me. So yeah, to answer one of your questions was, how do you take your pictures? She took a lot of my pictures. So just here's some more pictures of the Pacific Northwest. And some more. Can you guess what my favorite color is? Anyone? Okay. So yeah, then I moved into Mount Rainier National Park, where I was going to be working front desk. And at this time, my social media had really taken off. I had 500,000 followers on TikTok, and I started to have a few paid partnerships with certain companies. So companies were starting to pay me to promote their products. And I kind of let go of all of it and just started working at Mount Rainier. And one of my friends, who is very successful in what he does in social media, he said, you need to start putting all your effort into this because you could be making a lot of money and traveling the world and getting paid to do it. And so I was conflicted because I had made this 6-month commitment to Mount Rainier to stay there for the summer. This was my little home here. And up here, this was a friend that I had made at Mount Rainier. Her name was Maggie, or is Maggie. She's still with us. And so, let's see. I was conflicted because I loved my social media and I wanted to travel full time, but my mom and dad's voice is coming in my ear. You need to obey your commitments. And I was like, okay, fine. But I ended up sending some emails to camper van rental companies in Iceland. And I sent about 10 emails. I said, explaining who I am, because I really wanted to go to Iceland. And I said, I would love to promote your vans for a week. If in exchange, can I have your van for the week and I'll post about you on social media? And out of 10 emails, I got no responses for several days. And I said, okay, I guess, everything happens for a reason, I believe. And I said, I guess it's just not meant to be. I'll stay here and not Rainier. And one morning, I woke up to an email that said, hi Sarah, we would love to sponsor you. Just let us know when you want to come to Iceland and we'd be happy to provide you with your van. And so I said, there's no way I can pass up this opportunity. And then I went to Iceland. And I convinced my friend Maggie to also quit her job. So we both quit our jobs at Mount Rainier because we asked them, we're like, we'd like to go away for a week during your busiest week of the season. Could you let us? And they said, nope. So we said, bye. And Maggie and I explored Iceland for a week. This was our little camper van. Has anybody ever been to Iceland? A couple people. Iceland is the most amazing place I've ever been. I have been a lot of places in the United States, and Iceland was my first out of the country trip as an adult, and I was absolutely blown away by Iceland. Here are just some more pictures. And at this time, I had started taking my photography a little bit more seriously as well, and so here's just some of my pictures from there. And some more. And then, on our last day, Maggie and I decided, okay, we have one more day. Let's go out into the capital, Reykjavik. We're gonna go and see what the nightlife is like. And on our last day, we met Quinn and Sven from the Netherlands, and we were hanging out with them, and we're like, this is so fun. And then the next morning, Maggie and I were supposed to get our COVID test to go back to the United States because it's required to come back in. And we overslept our COVID tests. So we had to extend our stay a couple days, and we spent the next, I think it was like 2 days with them until they had to fly back to the Netherlands. And they're like, come to the Netherlands. And we were like, okay. And they're like, okay. And we were like, no, like, when? And they're like, whenever you want. And we're like, no, like, really? Like, really, we will come. We will come. And they're like, yeah, okay. So they said, come to the Netherlands. And so I called my mom, as anyone would do, and I said, just met 2 Dutch boys from the Netherlands. They want us to fly to Amsterdam tomorrow, so I might do that. I don't even have to tell you what she said. You already know what she said. And she said, you're not doing that. And I said, yep. And I hung up on her. And I did what any logical person would do, and we booked the flights. So, my dad would like to say a few words on this.
So, a side story to this is that her brother graduated from high school this past year, and so when she said she was going to be in Mount Rainier, in February I booked 2 plane tickets to Seattle for early July for his graduation trip because Sarah's going to be there and she can show us around. Well, we get there and she's not there. She's in Iceland. But she texted and she said, it's okay, I'll be back Wednesday. Well, we were there from a Sunday to a Sunday. I'll be back on Wednesday. Well, Monday came. She said, Dad, not coming back. So I said, Sarah, I'm in Mount Rainier because of you. You were supposed to be here. You need to get back here. She didn't come back. So her brother and I spent the week in the Pacific Northwest. I did not find out this stuff until August. So the entire time I'm thinking she's just driving around Iceland and really enjoying it. Little did I know that there was more to this story.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your side. I am sorry, and we will talk about this when we get home. Oops, wait, okay. Beep, beep, beep. Okay. So, side note, because this will come up in future slides. Let's see. This very handsome fella in the top corner, him and I hit it off when we were in Iceland, and when he invited me to come to the Netherlands, I eventually had to leave, and it was very difficult for both of us, and had to go home, and he said, I want you to come back. And so, just putting that out there, we'll come back to that. All right, so went back to the United States. So sad after my beautiful summer in Europe, and I thought, what am I gonna do? I have no plans. All I have here is an SUV, an old used SUV, and I'm tired of driving. So I was in my car one day, and I got this call from this company that does volunteer trips around the world. And they said, we want you to go to Nicaragua in 2 days to promote our company. And so I was like, wow, 2 days, okay. So they booked me a ticket to Nicaragua, and I lived in this little village called Hikaleo, and we helped build a home for this family. So we spent about, I think it was 10 days in the hot sun building this family a home. The rising water levels on the coast of Nicaragua has devastated many families' homes. So it was an incredible experience being able to really immerse myself into the culture, and because I've never had any plan to go to Nicaragua ever, so it was really, really interesting. So yeah, I went to Nicaragua with Give Volunteers. Here's some more pictures. And then I came home, but while I was in Nicaragua, I was talking to that handsome boy I was showing you there, and he said, I want you to come back. And I said, okay. So I bought a ticket to Amsterdam, but I bought it from New York because it was the cheapest. And so I said, time to drive across the country. And so I began my cross-country drive number 3. Here is Wyoming, Montana, and the Badlands. And so I flew off to Amsterdam. So here is the Netherlands, and then we took a little trip to Spain. Just some more pictures of Amsterdam. And I don't know if anyone here has ever been to Europe, but it is ridiculously cheap to fly around Europe. I got round-trip tickets to Croatia for $66, so you better believe I took that. Got to explore Croatia. Here's some more pictures. And then at this time, I had basically I spent just over 2 months in Amsterdam, or the Netherlands, just kind of abandoning all my social media stuff. I was just enjoying my time because I've been putting so much effort into it to keep it going, and then I finally had it to a point where I was like, all right, I can just leave this for a little bit. And then I spent 90 days in the area, like the European Union, in that year already, this year, and had to return home. And so now, since posting my first TikTok back in December of 2019, and everything that I have just showed you, I have been telling these stories online for months and months and months now, and it has gained the attention of quite a lot of people, as you can see. So today, as I am standing here talking to you, I have 1.5 million followers on TikTok, and I think 35,000 on Instagram. So let's see, what is next here? So yeah, I think that the next couple slides are just kind of things that I've already talked about here, just your basic questions. And so quite often I get asked online, because when you come across something cool online, you don't want to then read about it for 2 hours. And so people always ask me, how do you make money and travel? So it started off with my savings from my customer service jobs and hotel jobs, savings from the national parks. Briefly, I sold a book online, so I had a little bit of passive income that way. I started selling my photography, and then doing DoorDash here and there whenever I needed to pick up some extra money. And then now I am a full-time content creator on TikTok and Instagram. And another question that I get asked all the time is, how do you feel safe traveling as a woman? And how to keep yourself safe traveling as a woman? So I always say safety is my #1 priority. I will put my safety over, and the people that I'm with, safety over anything. So I keep a variety of self-defense objects on deck. You can imagine what those might be. Before I go to any place, I always research those places before going there. So I look at like news stories that have just happened, or the crime rates and statistics. I allow my friends and family to see my live location. So I've got about 20 people that at all times, they can see where I am. So I'm basically the wrong person to mess with, because as soon as my little bubble moves, my family's gonna be like, why is she in the cornfield? Why is she out there? I keep an emergency necklace. I don't have it with me right now, but there is a necklace that I got for my birthday, and it's a little round pendant, but if you flip it over and press it on the back twice, it will alert local authorities of my whereabouts and that I need help. It also alerts my friends and family of my choosing. It says, Sarah needs help, and then my coordinates and how to talk to the police on my behalf. Okay. So, when I was in the Netherlands, as you can tell, my mom probably wasn't too happy that I jet off to Amsterdam with 2 guys I met less than 24 hours before booking the flight. I was sitting on the couch with Quinn, who I was telling you about, and they said, I got this really cool necklace. Want to see what it does? So I said, he's like, won't it set it off? And I said, no, I'll just put it in test mode. It was not in test mode. And so my parents wake up to a text message that says, Sarah needs help, click here. And we were out exploring Amsterdam, and I connected some random Wi-Fi, and my mom, I had 20 text messages from my mom, and I answered, she called me, and she's like, Sarah? And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, are you there? What's wrong? What's going on? And I'm like, what's going on? Why are you freaking out? What's going on? And she's like, crying. Literally, I feel so bad for her. I must have literally given a heart attack. She said that she was trying to figure out how to call the police in the Netherlands. She's like, I've spent the last 10 minutes trying to figure out how to call the police. But I assured her that I was fine. She didn't think I was fine. She thought I was taken, and she thought that I was telling, the kidnappers were making me tell her that I was fine. But I was fine, and that's the day that I nearly killed my mother with a heart attack. So I took that off. I don't wear it anymore, just in case. I can't risk accidentally pressing it again. But yeah, and so the last thing for safety is just being aware of the things that could go wrong, and being familiar with common dangerous situations. When I'm traveling, I feel often that I need to have I am my own, I don't have anyone to look out for me or look over my shoulder, so I've had to learn to be very aware, and just look after myself and be very tough. So I have very thick skin now, which is good. But I've also learned to be very assertive. When you're traveling, oftentimes, I've learned that there's creepy people with bad intentions everywhere. That's never gonna go away. They're gonna always be there. And so I've had to learn that I need to assert myself if I'm ever in an uncomfortable situation, or if somebody's talking to me and I don't want them to be talking to me, or if they're approaching me and I don't want them to approach me. I've had to learn to say, please don't come any further, or I'm no longer interested in speaking with you. And I think that would be my biggest advice to any woman, or I guess just any person, that if you're uncomfortable, assert yourself and say, I'm not interested in speaking with you any further, and then just dismiss yourself from the conversation. Because I think that it's very direct, but I've learned from other female travelers that they're scared to do this because they're scared of backlash or negative reaction. But yeah, so that's that on safety. All right, does anybody have any questions? We got one all the way, I'm gonna come to you. Hold on one second. Okay, yes, what was your question?
Yeah, 2 questions. Did you ever need cash anywhere? And secondly, besides Nicaragua, where was it most evident climate change was happening?
Interesting question. I think, what do you mean by, did you ever need cash?
Were you able to survive with a debit card and credit and not need cash?
Yeah. Pretty much everywhere I've gone within the United States, I can just use my debit card with no problem. And then as for Nicaragua,
Besides Nicaragua?
oh yeah, besides,
Where else did you see climate change?
I honestly don't think that I was paying much attention besides Nicaragua, because we were actively working to fix the problem that it was causing. So I'm sorry, I don't know how, I can't answer your question.
California, you didn't get the fires or the...
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, when I was in Yosemite, I had decided to take a weekend trip to San Francisco, and while I was away, there was a fire in the park causing so much smoke that my mom and I decided that I shouldn't even go back into the park, so I had to stay outside of the park because of just how devastating these fires were. And even just driving into the park, you can see all the burnt trees. They're just sticks coming out of the ground. And it's so sad to see, because these forests are so old and they're so beautiful. So yeah, thank you for that question. Anyone else? I'm gonna come to you. What's your question?
I'm just curious, when you drove, how did you plan it? Did you stick to highways, secondary roads? What did you like for that?
So their question, actually I'll just have you speak into it.
When you drove, did you stick to secondary roads or highways, and how did you plan it?
So My life is kind of not planning anything. Like, I cannot plan more than 24 hours in advance and end up it being that way. But for the most part, yeah, when I'm alone, I prefer to take the major highways, just because I know exactly what to expect, and I don't have to like go off on side roads looking for gas stations. But when I'm traveling with other people, I do feel comfortable going like off on back roads or like highways out in the middle of nowhere. But for the most part, yeah, I stayed on like the major highways. Next question. Coming to you. I'm going to hand you the microphone if that's okay.
Thanks. How did you overcome the language barriers and social gestures such as a simple handshake?
That's a really good question. So when I was in Europe, Europeans speak very good English. Kind of makes the rest of us look bad. But so yeah, being in Europe was pretty easy. But when I was in Nicaragua, they speak Spanish, obviously. And you know, I know a little bit of Spanish, but not enough. Not enough to be able to have a conversation with them. But when I was working at the housing site, there was a couple little girls running around, and we're playing music, and they're dancing, and you know, going up to them. We don't speak the same language, so the only way that we could communicate is through like laughing and toys and dancing. And I thought, how amazing is it that we can't speak to each other, but we can still feel each other, and we can still like communicate through playing and dancing. And so that was something that I didn't even realize that I would experience through my travels, and I'm really, really glad that I did, because at the end of the day, we're all one, and even though there's language barriers and borders, we really are just all one. So that was something that I learned.
Was Nicaragua habitat for humanity or for the city?
So I went through GIVE. It's called GIVE Volunteers, but I think similar things, just shorter projects. So it's like anywhere from like 11 to 28 days. So yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Okay, when you were in Hawaii, did you have to go paragliding?
Paragliding? No, I did not, but I did like snorkeling, went to Haleakala National Park, did the road to Hana, but no, I've never gone paragliding.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because my stepson has paragliding school in Maui.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's so cool. And Maui's a great place for that. It's beautiful. The Maui mountains are amazing. What was that? Oh, okay, cool. Pro flight paragliding, if anyone's ever going to Hawaii. Do we have any other questions? Oh, we got one all the way back here. Did you have one? I'll come to you first.
Well, I know you're not a plan-ahead person. Do you have a general idea of where you're going from here? What's next?
I think yes. So as for like my short-term plans, that Dutch boy did follow me home, and he's sitting right here up in the front. And so it's his first time in the United States. He got here about 5 days ago, and we are going to turn that teeny tiny little SUV you saw up here into a two-person living situation. So in about 2 days, we're going to be hitting the road. We're going to be going from New York to Florida, and then from Florida to San Diego, and then all around those parks out there, so I can show him all of my favorite places. But as for my long-term goals, my dream before I leave Earth is I would like to travel to every single country in the world, or as many as I can. As many as it's possible. So yeah, that's my long-term goal, and we're going to be hitting the road here pretty soon. And then we had another one somewhere. I'll come to you here. Sorry, it's coming.
I was just wondering, so is the goal to totally fund all of your travels through social media sponsors, and is that possible, and are you there at that point?
So yes, absolutely. So I feel very fortunate to be in a situation where now my income can be made online and doing something, basically just sharing stories about my life and places I've been. And so, yeah, I would say as of today, I am fully reliant on my social media income. And it's growing, and I don't expect it to stop. So I will be, for the next foreseeable future, just traveling the world and getting paid to do it.
We have one back here, Sarah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just wondering if you ever had trouble with your SUV breaking down or any crazy stories that worried you about that?
That was a fun phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning from Olympic National Park.
So, yes. So, I was in Olympic National Park with 2 travelers, also female, also solo travelers, and we were at a campsite, and a place that I felt safe, and we were just sitting around the campfire, and at around dusk, this man comes to the edge of our campsite and just stands there. And we're like, hello, can we help you? And he was like, you guys want to come over to my campsite? And we were like, nope, no we do not. And we said, no thank you. He's like, it's going to be really fun if you just come over to my campsite. And we said, no, thanks for asking though. And so, you know, we're kind of, he leaves and we're kind of on edge. And I'm like, okay, looking over our shoulders. It's getting darker, kind of out here in the middle of nowhere. I was the only one that had service. And so we're hanging out by the fire. It's completely dark now. And I decided I'm gonna go to bed. So I crawl into my car, pull the door shut, and I lean back to go to bed. And I hear a voice, and my friends are talking, and I hear this deep voice at the end, like just outside my car. And he goes, are you sure you guys don't want to come over to my campsite? And we were like, yes. My friends go, we're sure, you can leave now. And he's like, he starts coming into our campsite. He's like, you guys aren't gonna invite me in? And my friends, I'm sitting in my car, I'm like, oh my God, like, do I get out? What do we do? Like, this guy's weird. And so my friends, again, asserted themselves and said, nope, please leave. We do not want to hang out. We do not want anything to do with you. And so what I had gathered from that situation is that I was the one that told him that we didn't want to hang out the first time. And so he had watched until I had left for him to then come and try again. And so I get out of my car. Once I hear him leave, I get out of my car and I go to my friends and I'm like, what do we do? And they're like, grab all of your stuff, get in your car, turn it on. They say, wait for us, and then we'll all drive away together. And so I get all my stuff, I'm freaking out, I'm like shaking. Because you never know what people are capable of. And we could have been overreacting, but we also maybe weren't. And so I get all my stuff, and I gotta turn my car on, and it goes. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God. And so all my friends, or my 2 friends, they're like, you're gonna have to put all your stuff in our car, and we're gonna have to leave your car here with the crazy one. And so I was terrified. But yeah, my car, I had left my Jackery plugged into it, so it was charging, soaking out all of my car battery. We had to drive to some hotel in Forks, Washington in the middle of the night and leave my car there overnight, and the next morning it got towed, but I was so scared that I was gonna be like just abandoned in Washington without a home, because when your car is your home, putting a lot of pressure and faith in that car, because it's an old one, and I've driven it across the country 3 times this year, and about to be a 4th and a 5th, so just like every day I'm like, please turn on, please turn on. But everyone always asks, why don't you get a van? Why don't you just get an RV? And I'm like, I paid for this car. I'm gonna drive it until it can't even move anymore. So, yeah. Questions, anyone? No one? Got one back there.
So, how much time and thought you put into each social media post, and does it feel like work to you, or does it just feel like part of the fun of going out and having an adventure?
Good question. So I think it's both. I feel fortunate that my job is to just put together clips of my life and tell stories. So when I find myself saying, oh, this is taking so long, I'm like, no, this is amazing, because you don't have to wake up and go in and work for somebody else. Like, you can just work on your own schedule. But it depends. Sometimes it takes me 15 minutes, sometimes it takes me 3 hours, depending on the video. But I try to stop myself when I feel like, ugh, I don't feel like doing this, because I'm so blessed to be in the position that I'm in at this age, and essentially living my dream life because of something that I've created. So, yeah, thank you. Got one over there.
Hey Dad, this question's for you. What are your feelings tonight as you're listening to your daughter recount all of her incredible journeys, and how many nights do you not go to sleep?
Yeah, those are great questions, and it has been extremely difficult to live this from the fringe. And I can look on Find My Friends on my phone, and it's 3,200 miles away. So if something happened, like you get a phone call at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, you're not getting there anytime soon. So it's difficult, but at some point you have to just put some faith in the universe, put some faith in people. When she was stuck in Montana, 4 days? For 4 days when the train crashed, that little town took care of her, and they fed her, and it was like, they knew she was there alone, and they took over for her family, and they took care of her. So you have to realize that there are still good people out there, and you have to put some faith and just... my talk at the beginning was to sort of let you know there is no way to continue. She's 22 years old. I can't tell her no. I can't say, Sarah, you're grounded, go to your room, you can't do this, because she's going to do it. So the other thing that I feel from watching this presentation is, as she said, she never wanted to go to college, and I'm a high school teacher, and we spend our time pushing students into college. And it has changed me in the way I associate with my students, because when I have students tell me they want to go into a trade or they want to do something other than college, I'm much more supportive of that idea now. Because we shouldn't be sending everybody to college. And if you look at what she's experienced, and she's done it on her own, a very common question or comment she gets in her posts is, it must be nice to have the trust fund, or it must be nice to have the rich parents. And I usually clap back at those people, and my name on TikTok is Dad of Sarah. I have no posts. I'm only there to just clap back on the trolls who come in and make those comments. And I let them know that I don't fund any of this. That she's done this all on her own.
Full disclosure, I'm a family friend. I've known Sarah since she was 15. I think you've just touched on this just a little bit, but I'm interested in, a lot of us are on social media, or probably many of us are on social media, maybe not TikTok. But certainly people post all the time on that. Can you, and I think you kind of touched on the monetization of that and how you've done it, because I view all of this as entrepreneurship. So if you touch a little bit more about your business dealings and how you've been able to take essentially something that's social media that's just something that could be considered very frivolous and actually turn this into a business venture.
So it's quite, there's a lot, but I will just try to summarize it the best that I can. So basically, marketing and advertising is, everybody's doing it. Every business, every company wants people to see their service, product, anything. They want their name out there, they want people to be trying it, and they want people that have an audience and that are reputable to share this. And I didn't know this. I thought that I had a lot of companies reaching out to me that said, you know, I want to send you my water bottle. Can you post about it? And I'm like, okay, I'll take a free water bottle. Didn't know that I could get paid to do it. So I was taking in all these free stuff, not knowing that I could be negotiating because it's free advertising. Advertising is expensive, and people are willing and have budgets to pay people for advertising. So I started replying to these emails and said, sure, I will promote your t-shirt for $500. And they're like, deal. And they'll send it to me. And I post about it. Next thing you know, I'm getting a check in the mail. And as my followers grew, I said, how far can I push this? So I was like, I'll do that for $1,500. Deal. And so I just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And now I'm at a point where I don't have to work. And I don't, to kind of just touch on your question again, I don't really feel like it's work because I'm getting to live the life that I have always wanted to live, and couldn't even imagine this life when I was like, you know, dreaming about it in high school. So I guess just to answer your question, I had no idea that I was capable of such things, but I have a lot of really, really, really great mentors and people that are friends of mine that are very successful in social media, and they're basically kind of just like lifting me up and showing me exactly how to do it. And so I've just been taking their advice, and here I am today.
And when you're not paying rent, and when you don't have any space to put things that you don't need, you're not buying things you don't need. So when you're making decent money and your expenditures aren't as much as the normal person, it goes a lot further also.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have any other, how many more, when do we stop? Was there, I think you had your hand up here.
One quick one, I promise it's quick.
Okay.
So, you obviously live kind of a minimalist lifestyle. What are your most valued possessions?
That's a good question. So, my most valued possessions is my car, my laptop, my phone, and my passport. If the world was on fire, I would take all of those things and I would go to another planet, because those are the most important things to me. I try not to accumulate lots of things or spend money on very fancy material items, because my sole purpose is to put my money into traveling. Like, I will be like, oh, a bag for $30? No. But then I'll be like, round trip flights to Peru, $750, deal. So I basically just put all of my money into the things that I want to do that will get me farther to my goals. Do we have any more questions before we end? Great. Just real quick before we end, thank you guys for being such a good audience, and thank you for listening to me talk and coming out here tonight. I really, really appreciate it. And if you have TikTok, I'm at Sights of Sarah.